Hello guys, I'll be explaining our bird movement script. So our bird movement script firstly starts by declaring some variables and some vector3 variables. So our first variable is vector3 velocity, and the vector3 is equals 0, which means that the z axis point, which is the velocity in this case, is equals to 0. And our public float, a public variable which can be changed during our game editing. It has 100 and 1 for forward speed and flap speed, which we found the most convenient to our game setup. And we have a boolean function variable which is equals to did flap, and did flap is equals to false. And then we have our animator, which are mostly these two previous variables are related to animator, and this animator is related to the animation of our bird, which makes the bird's wings flap up, down, and other positions. And we have another public boolean which is dead when it's the boolean function variable when the bird is dead, which is equals to false, and a float, a new variable which is called death cooldown, and another and the last boolean variable which is equals god mod, which is always false. So we start by doing our functions. First function is at the start, which means the function is at the initialization of the game, at the first starts of the game. So if the animator equals transform.getComponent children animator, so if the animator is equals to null, well, the first part of the script is just saying that we should look at the animator part in our Unity engine, which refers to the animation we have. So if animator is equals null, the debug will log an error didn't find an animator. This is a very good step debugging in our game to understand if our script is working well. And then we have the main functions. We have two, which will be next. We have the function void update. So if the bird is dead, if dead, death cooldown equals minus delta time. Minus equals delta time, which means if the bird is dead, we deduce the time, the y, which is time delta time in this case, from the death cooldown, the values. So if this value is bigger than or equal to 0, we input a new function, which is another if function. If the click key or the space key hasn't pressed, we reload the level. Which means in this part, when the bird dies and the cooldown is smaller or equal to 0, so when the smaller equal to 0, which means it will be more explainable in the game, because when we crash to another part in the game or another pipe, the bird will turn to a death scene and falls. So after he falls, if we press the space or the left click button, our game will reload the level and we start from a new start. Else, if it's not there, which means we are still playing the game, and the flap is true, which means the bird is still flapping and we're still playing the game and continuing our surf through pipes. And we have another function which is a fixed update, which is the part of the physics engine frame update. So if it's dead, we return a get component rigid body at force vector 3 forward speed. This is the part where if the bird hits any pipes or anything and dies, we'll add a vector 2 right forward speed, which means our bird will fall on the ground, like when a real bird falls on the ground. And we trigger a animator which is equals to do flap, and this animator is the animator is where the part of the game where the bird turns white color and has no flapping movement. So we have did flap equals false. So, and another if statement, if the get component, if the rigid body's velocity by y is bigger than 0, then we transform rotation quantum Euler 0 0, which means this is the part about the rotation of our bird. So this part just say if the rigid body by the velocity of y, the movement of y upper is bigger than 0, nothing will happen. But if our float angle will change to minus 90, we will have a new angle, which is the part where the bird, when the bird gets higher and higher, when he's going down, the back of the bird goes on a lower angle, and we have another void function which is on collision. We enter God mod and we trigger a death scene. And after, if the death scene, and the death scene is related to our dead variable, and we will have a dead variable, which means our death cooldown will be 0.5, and it will trigger our death animation, which we already talked about. So this is our bird movement script. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll be explaining next scripts.